Hi friends, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and in this video we're going to talk about and really help you know, let's get clickbaity here, what wattage lights you need for your stage. Let's dive in. Okay. So if you're new here, what we do is we help people create amazing stage lighting. We do that by teaching people, by helping you learn the things so that you can make great lighting in whatever circumstance you light or getting started with lighting. And then we help you get the things. So if you're in the US, Learning Stage Lighting Gear is the place to buy things, and we want to help you get the right lights in your hands. Okay, so part of finding the right lights and getting the right lights in your hands is finding the right brightness or size of lights for your space. And sometimes people go ask online for something, or they look for a recommendation in like a Facebook group, and what they get thrown back at them is, oh, you need a 150 watt spot mover, right? Nothing could be further from the truth. Why? Okay, when it comes to especially LED source fixtures, wattage does not equal brightness. Like, never, ever, ever does it even correlate. I mean, yes, something that's a 3 watt source is going to look less bright than something that's a 300 watt source. But even here at the studio, we have all of these fixtures on. You know, this 300 watt light looks about as bright as this 70 watt Dominar Par S that we have. It's a special fixture we have made just for us. And the Par isn't even at full. Okay, so how do they look the same brightness if the Par is like a quarter of the wattage, right? It doesn't correlate, and it's not going to. Why? Well, there are just so many more factors with LEDs, including the type of lensing and optical path, which, I mean, you had with non-LED sources, but also the efficacy, or the, you know, sort of efficiency, though that's technically an incorrect term, of the LED itself plays a huge role. Okay, massive. You know, back in the day, like when I started doing this and you were working with mostly incandescent sources or arc sources, you could take 2 arc source fixtures or 2 incandescent fixtures, and if they were generally similar types of lensing, 2 fixtures from different brands would generally be a similar brightness. I'm making a lot of assumptions there, but the point was that, you know, when you kind of compared apples to apples between different fixtures or brands back in the incandescent or arc lamp days, generally similar fixtures were in the same ballpark. With LEDs, that's often not the case. Let's tell a story. Okay, story time with David. So, about a month ago, before recording this, I took a friend, a lighting designer of mine, and we went out to do a programming gig. Okay, we don't do a ton of these, but somebody referred this place to me, said, hey, this place bought a bunch of lights. They were all the Shaheds brand lights. If you're not familiar, that's a kind of direct from China light. Yes, they have warehouses in the US, but their support is really all from China. And they're very inexpensive lights. And so I was kind of excited to check them out, one, because they'd reached out to me previously, and unfortunately we couldn't come to an agreement. They really didn't want to send me multiple fixtures. Like, they didn't want to send me 2 fixtures, and they wanted me basically to endorse the fixtures before I saw them. I wasn't okay with that, so that never worked out. But I was walking into this going, hey, this place is going to have like 80 fixtures, and we're going to get to check them out. Sure, they're all new out of the box, but we're going to get to check them out. Long story short, you know, there were a lot of problems with them. Some of them would just kind of freak out randomly at different times, and then we'd have to turn off the power and turn it back on to get them to behave. But the biggest thing that stuck out to both myself and my friend, the lighting designer who I've been working with for quite a while, his name's Joel, was you know, from fixture to fixture, color consistency was just all wacko, right? Like, we have a Volux Sysma Z4 here, just barely in the shot, and if you buy those today, if you buy them 6 months from now, if you buy them a year from now, they're going to generally look very similar in terms of color. These fixtures were all across the board. So that was one thing. The other thing was just the overall brightness. Like, you had fixtures, you know, similar to that Sysma Z4 from Volux, which was a wash fixture. And I believe they were a Aura style wash, so they were a 25 by 15 watt fixture. And just the amount of output that we were getting out of them, even in a dark room, was simply not impressive. Like, we didn't meter it. I didn't have my spectrometer with me, but, you know, just apples to apples, you know, for guys that work with lighting all day long, we both independently, you know, me in my head, and then he came to me and said, you know, these things just, they're not very bright. For the fact that they're 300 watt, or they had a bunch of moving spot fixtures, kind of similar to the Spectra, that were 150 watt unit with zoom, and granted, zoom optics do cut down on brightness, but, you know, the amount of brightness coming out of these things was just honestly kind of pathetic. And it honestly levels the playing field, because just a part of the issues that we had with fixtures and that people have had with these fixtures in terms of reliability, like, the brightness is like of something that's like 60% the wattage. So instead of a 150 watt unit, it's more like an 80 watt fixture from like one of the major brands, right? And an 80 watt fixture or a 60 watt, you know, moving head spot from one of these other brands like ADJ or Chauvet or Gamma or whoever may not have zoom, but it's just as bright and about the same price and way more reliable. Anywho, so we're talking about brightness levels though here. So the point is, with LEDs, wattage is never, ever, 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 ever correlated to brightness, okay? But even outside of LEDs, if anyone says to you, you need this wattage fixture, you need that wattage fixture, you should not slap them, but you should really question the recommendation they're giving you, okay? Because ultimately, how bright a fixture looks is a variety of things, okay? First, you've got kind of the wattage coming out of it at an angle. There's a certain brightness level you're going to hit. Oftentimes, on spec sheets from manufacturers, etc., this is going to be measured in lux or foot candles, which is the same measurement. It's like feet and meters, okay? Same measurement, different scale. But the key there is that it is a center point brightness. So if that fixture, which this happens a lot, particularly with less expensive par type fixtures, it will be really bright in the center and not as bright towards the edges. A really good fixture often is really flat, but fixtures that are designed to really punch through the air, beam type fixtures, may have a hot spot in the center, because that helps them do that goal, okay? So just because something has a hot spot doesn't mean it's bad, but that means it's better at shooting through the air, less good at evenly washing something from the front, okay? And so, you know, the guidance here is basically looking at a foot candle number, looking at a lumens number, which is the total light emitted from the fixture, looking at a foot candle or lux is a lot more helpful than looking at wattage, but it's still not the whole story, okay? And, you know, ultimately, if you have a light already, like say you have this and it's, you know, 70 watts, right, of LED wattage, okay? And you say, okay, maybe I want a 70 watt mover to go with it. Well, then you say, okay, am I doing things like here? I've got a gobo in this fixture. That subtracts light, right? And you're taking a look at different, you know, zoom levels. For example, say I'm in like a mid-sized performing arts center or a church or something like that. You know, I want the ability to you know, find something within the budget that works really well. Okay, sometimes we can afford a fixture that can zoom out all the way and be put into a deep color and still look really punchy, right? Like this Sysma Z4, if I just walk over to the computer here, and we'll keep the camera on the main, I can take it, for example, and it can go down to 3.5 degrees, okay? And say I go ahead and I pump the gobo out of it just to show you. Okay, it looks quite narrow, quite nice. Or I can take it to 46 degrees. The difference in the punch through the air, the difference in that brightness level is very different. So in any space, like if I put it here in a full cyan, in any space, you know, there's going to be a range of fixtures that can work well. If anybody tells you one fixture, one size is what's going to work right for your space, you definitely should not hire them, okay? Because there's a range, right? Do you need zoom? Do you not need zoom? Do you want it to be super bright and punchy at full zoom and then just crazy bright at narrow? Or would it be okay if when you're in deeper colors, you have to keep it narrow to see it, right? A lot of this stuff is subjective too, and even when it comes down to it, just to kind of wrap it up and put things in a nice pretty bow, even when it comes down to it, two fixtures that are the same brightness on paper, even if we're looking at a candela plot, we're looking at, how sharp the peak is in the center. Even if we look at two fixtures that are identical brightness from two different brands, even if they're the same type of fixture, the apparent brightness can be different depending on the sharpness of the edge, depending on the color temperature, the color quality. There's a lot of things that go into it. So what's my point here? My point here is there's really two key points to choosing the size or wattage of light that you need. Number one is there's never just one answer, and it's never quite that simple, even though that feels good, it feels clickbaity. You see videos on YouTube where people say this is the best light for churches, blah, 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 blah. That's just really not ever true. In with that first point is that, wattage directly is never, ever, 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 ever a great comparison. If two lights maybe are made by the same brand in the same series, and one's smaller and one's bigger in terms of wattage, then yeah, maybe there's some comparison there. But even with that, lower wattage LEDs tend to be more bright per watt than higher wattage, okay? Because they get less efficient or less effective as they get to higher wattage. The second piece of the equation is it really does help to have an expert on your side. It really does help to have somebody who can look at your space and say, hey, we've had other customers with other spaces just like this. They went with this type fixture. It worked really awesome. This type fixture would really shine. This type of fixture would cut through but not be amazing, but would do the job, and that's where we come in. So if you're looking for the right wattage, the right fixture to buy, you see everything out there and you're like, I don't know what I need, then hey, head over to LearnStageLightingGear.com, go to the contact page, tell us a little bit about your space, and we'll request even more info for you. Send it over. We love to help people get you a quote, find you a fixture, a light that's a really good fit. While you're there, check out our gaff tape too, guys. This is our gaff tape, grade A gaff tape by the gaffer guys through Learn Stage Lighting Gear, and it is exceptional. It really is as good as the name brand stuff. More and more people keep buying it, keep finding that out, and it is at a really good price. You can save 40 to 50% on your gaff tape, and we would love to help you with that. So check out those two things, and we will see you in our next video. Thanks.